Alright, here are my thoughts on Lefty. This is based on a book, and I read like the synopsis of the book, and pretty much from what I remember when I saw the movie, um, it seems to be like beat for beat what happened in the movie. So yeah, it looks like this adaptation might be pretty damn faithful. Um, but yeah, so the story is there's this czar who goes to England and he like checks out all their neat little steampunk inventions and uh, but he also has like this general who's like a traditionalist. He's like, oh, we have the best stuff back in Russia, and yeah, you might say this book slash you might say this story is kind of a deconstruction of Russia's pride. You know, like Russia's very, or I don't know. While watching these Russian movies, I do get like a sense of them being like overly proud on themselves. Um, I know I'm kind of like making a lot of judgments about these Russian movies, but I've watched so many of them by now that it's you're bound to have a couple thoughts, like a couple what's the word observations about them. Um, but yeah, the Tsar gets to see the most impressive of the British's inventions, this little dancing mechanical flea. You have to like look at it through a microscope. Um, and yeah, they're given the flea as a gift. Um, so yeah, they take it home, and then like I don't know, like the Tsar dies, and then like his younger brother takes over, and um, like basically he wants he wants Russia to make a better yeah he wants Russia to make something better than what the British made because screw the British, this is Russia. Yeah, Russian power. Yeah, kind of relevant today, right? You know, Putin. Um, so yeah, they find these three gunsmiths. They tell the gunsmiths to make. Basically, they tell them to make the invention even better or something, and like they come back a year later or something, and actually they kind of broke the flea, it seems, but they gave it nice little tiny shoes. So yeah, since it's on the tiny flea that has to be seen through a microscope, it means you can't see them. So yeah, and then they put on these like microscopic nails that are even harder to see. Yeah, you get the point. They made like tiny thingies. Um, so yeah, despite breaking the flea, it seems the authorities are impressed, and they take the youngest of the gunsmiths, and yeah, called Lefty because he's left-handed. Um, I don't know. I think he like goes to England because they invite him because they're impressed by the tiny thingies that he made. I don't know. I guess he seems to get most of the credit for the inventions. yeah, his so yeah, the his so yeah, he's in he's partying it up in England, and then but then he's like homesick for Mother Russia. Um, so he goes back. He gets drunk along the way, and then he like winds up on the streets, and then he like he's basically sent to a hospital to die, and he tries. Oh yeah, and while he was in England, he found out that they don't clean their muskets with brick powder like the Russians do, and at first he seems to kind of like snort at this, like, oh, those British, but then he like comes to some kind of like epiphany or something that he realizes that because the British keep their muskets oily, he realizes that it actually makes their guns more powerful, so they have an advantage against the Russians. So he tries to get the word out, but he ultimately fails, and then he dies, and there does still seem to be a little bit of Russian pride. There's some ego stroking on Russia's part, as seems to be in quite a few of these movies. But yeah, it does seem to like deconstruct the Russian pride as well. So I don't know. It's an interesting story. A little hard to follow at times, maybe. But yeah, it's interesting. And what's even more interesting is the animation style. It's done with cutout animation. Obviously, it's not quite as interesting as The Bath was, with its mixture of stop motion puppetry and some occasional cutout animation, and it just slapped a bunch of stuff together. That was a weird movie, but this one's at least a little easier to follow than that one was. But yeah. But yeah, this is an interesting movie. I don't know if I'd say I would like watch it again, or at least not like with the intention of like sitting down and enjoying it like I do with other certain movies, but it's still an interesting little story, and some interesting animation. So yeah, it's worth checking out if you're interested in these Russian movies, or just the animation style, or anything like that. Um, yeah, it's just interesting. I think 7 out of 10 sounds like a fitting enough rating for this movie. Um, and yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that. Well, I guess it is worth noting. You know, for a while Russia seemed to settle on like the same kind of animation, and they still go back to it every now and then. I mean, I believe the most recent outing of that style of animation was the Wild Swans, and I did I did actually watch the original dub of that movie recently, just to like make sure I wasn't like judging it based on some kind of bad dub, but no, it still sucks. But yeah, at least Russia's willing to experiment every now and then. Beloved Beauty was stop motion, and then The Bath is just really hard to describe. But yeah, this one kind of continues that tradition. And yeah, I think they pulled it off fairly well. Not a favorite of mine, but but I respect what they did. So I guess I'll leave it at that. Mash it and smash it, signing off.